Hello explorers and welcome to another video. And today I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna play with some CSS, JavaScript and create an audio player. And this audio player will use the standard audio element in HTML5, which is quite awesome. It can do a lot. And I will try to style it and add some functionality to it, and also make it embeddable in a page. You can just have some data and then create a player from that data. So my starting point here is that I have some JSON with a title, a source, MP3, and some audio types. So this is MIME types for these, and I remember now that I put all my audio files in the sounds directory, so I will have to add that to my JSON as well. So this is pretty much it. I have added the Font Awesome library because it's quite awesome when it comes to showing different graphical elements. And I've added a CSS, and I also have my JavaScript down here. And at the moment you can see over here that I have some output where I just print out the current JSON object, nothing more to that. And I have a small little CSS, so I actually take the HTML body and HTML element, and I remove the padding and margin of those, align them center, and set the height to 100%, so I will get everything in the middle. So that's just to show show the element a little bit more. So let's start in our audio player here and start with a function, and this should be our audio player function, and we will actually create audio player. So by creating a function that returns a list of other functions, we can actually create somewhat of a class or some encapsulation. JavaScript notoriously don't have these kind of features, but you can do some things like this. So the audio player needs an element to it. We will set this to var the player element, so we will have it down here if we get one. And let's start by adding a function called, no, I will actually have an initialization element because that sounds more reasonable. So let's just put an init function here, then we will create function init, give it an player element, and in this player element we will create first up we need our JSON. So we will take this player element and fetch the text content of that element and use JSON parse to get the actual JSON object from that element. Yeah, and this will be our playlist, so just put that there and then define it up here so we can use it all over. Playlist. And I also think I will need a current track, perhaps, and maybe we call this our track list for consistency. So the current track and our track list, and when we init this, we can set the track to 0, so we have that at the start. Then we will create our audio element. I think we also need a connection to that, so audio player up here. We will create our new audio. So that is actually a JavaScript function or JavaScript object that you can initialize with new. So now that I have my new audio player, I want to add player add event listener because when a track actually ended, so when we have actually played the full track, I want it to continue with the next track. So let's just create a small function for that. So in this case, when the audio player has ended, we will take the current track and increment it. We will take the audio player and we can create a function that play current track. So we have that later on. And this function play current track, the only thing it will do is take the audio player and run a few functions on that. We first want to pause any ongoing audio. We want to take the audio player and set the source element to our track list and current track and the source. So we will get that. And we will also need to take the audio player and load the new track, and take the audio player and play the newly loaded track. So that will be something that we can call on and actually get a new audio track playing. And when we have initialized this, I think we also need to have a play function so we can start playing. I think we will need no, actually we don't need a play function, but we need to have a function here to actually pause and play the current track so we can start and stop the playing. But we don't need to expose it actually. So audio player play, and we can do the same with function pause do player pause. So we have those functions, and yeah, let's start there. Nope, we need two more functions. We need a function to seek to current time, and that will actually take the audio player and just set the current time. So the current time is the time playing at the moment in seconds. So that is where you are playing in the track, and you also have a duration on your audio players. You can actually play at a specific duration, and yeah, we start there. So now I need to add some elements here. We need to create a few things. We need to create some buttons. We need this play button. And let's create that document, create element, and create a div. No, button, of course, we want to do this the right way, so we have all the features of the different elements. And if we don't use an element as a button, that will actually hinder us, because a button will give us the functionality that you can use on screen readers and so on, to actually see that you have something on screen that you can interact with. If I just put a div element there, then I had to put a lot of area information into it to actually use it in a consistent way. So it's very good that they have already done all the work for that. And there's some more things we need to put to the audio player. And the audio player needs to have a starting track, perhaps. So let's set the first track in the track list. The audio player also needs to have controls, and that is set to a function called controls. And this is something that we might remove later. This is just to see the current controls at the moment, so we don't miss any controls, so we can see how it looks from the start. And then we will remove it later and just use the audio. And what do we need more? And say we take our player element and we append our play button. We append our pause button, and we append our audio player, just so we have something visual on screen. And down here, when we have actually loaded this, so we take window on load. So when the window is loaded, we have a function that searches for all the players and audio players, and that is document query. Let's see here. I think it's query elements. Let's check that. Document query selector is the actual name for it. Query selector, and we will actually select, search for all player audio, or what is it called? Audio player? Audio player, yeah. So let's turn that around. Audio player. So now we will get a list of all the audio players. We use a simple for loop for those. I have done this for in, but I actually don't like to use that, because in my experience, please tell me if I'm wrong, it actually takes some of the extra stuff in the actual list, so we can take the length and so on and give that as something in the iterable. And I just think that's strange, because you never want the length as a part of your iterable. You just want the actual values. So we take all the audio players, and for each of these elements we will create audio player first. So new player, just like that, and this player we will init with the audio player. So now we have taken the JSON file here, and that means that this player element, before we actually put something into it, we can clear it. So in inner HTML equals nothing. So let's try that out, see what happens. Nothing. That was not what I was hoping for. I missed a little bit there. Query selector all was what I was looking for, to get all of them. Now we see that we have actually got a control here. We can play the first audio if we like. So now that we see it, we have a player and some buttons. We know nothing in the buttons, so we need to fill these buttons out. So let's take the player button and put some inner HTML in it, and we put an I tag because this is used in Font Awesome. Then we take a class, and this class is Font Awesome and Font Awesome play. And we also need to get it, take the ARIA value of hidden and set that to true, because we don't want the screen reader to read this element, because it's nonsense for the screen reader. It's just an icon. And we also want the player button, play button, aria label to say play, so the screen reader will read something. We also can do this for this pause button, so we create 2 of those and set pause here. So now we have these buttons that we can play with, and the play button, we will take that on click and set that to this play, and the on click on this pause button we set to pause. So now we should have controls to pause and play the actual audio. So that's great. We have done a good start here. So now we need to actually create functions to play next and play previous. So let's create a function here, play next. And this function will check the current track. So we actually want to have play next here as well, because this will do the same. So play next will take the current track and it will check if current track is smaller than the track list length -1. And if it is, then current track can be equal to +1, and if not, we will say that it's track list length -1. And I think we will use this track list length a bit, so let's create a function for this as well, var track list len, not that much shorter, but it's as descriptive. And then we will put that into here, so track list len equals the length. So we can use those for all the places that we will do this calculation. And if we like, we can actually do like this, that we take this and create a proper if statement, because that might be more readable for us. So if track list is, or else, we do that. And in this case, we just want to increment if it's less than, and if not, then we want it to stop. So the current track should be equal to the last element in the list. So that's pretty much play next. So play previous should be easy as well. Previous. And this will check if the current track is larger than 0, then we will decrease the track, else we will set it to 0. And just if we go through and for some reason set it to some value that doesn't exist. So when we have done that, we can actually create a few more of these buttons here. We can have a next button, and we can have a previous button. So let's go through these. So we will use the font awesome forward and backward. quite explanatory for themselves. So let's put the previous button before the list, and let's put the next button after the element. So now we have these as well. So now we can play, jump to the next. If we had actually put them on the right, put the right function on them. So let's see here. We need to put the play next on the next button and play previous on the previous button. Let's check here. We play, jump to the next button, next, and back. So now we have actually tested that we can go back and forth and play the different values. So now I want to do a little bit more, because if we look at this control here, we actually have some pretty nice HTML information here. But if you look at all the different browsers, they will implement this styling a bit different. So in Chrome it looks like this now, but in Firefox is at the moment I think a bit grayish or black. So if you actually take that styling and use it right away, you will get something that doesn't look that good. So I want to have the functionality of this with my play and pause button and everything like that, but make it a bit more like a component that I can reuse and actually just have there. So in that case, we need to also put in a little element to show off the actual number of where we are. So let's start with that. Then we can take, we can create another element. In this case, we just take a block element. So a div should be fine, and this should be information div. So this will just tell you where you are in the track. And let's just take this information div and give it a class name of info audio player info, just so we have something that we can style it by. And then in our CSS we will put this tag and give it a width of, let's say, 100 pixels, height of 30 pixels or something, just so we have some dimensions on it. And we go back here, we input this between the audio player and after the pause button. And this information div is actually something that I think I need in the player as something that we can change. So let's put it up here. And during the initialization here, we will also tell the audio player to listen to add event listener for time update, which is another event that actually triggers every time the time, or the not duration, but the actual time in the play order is updated. So we will create a function of that. And let's see here, we can update time. Create that a little function. So we go up here, function, update time. And because we already have all the information we need in the audio player, we actually don't need to look in the event here. But in the event you also have the source element, which points to this audio player, so you can use the event to actually fetch the audio player that you want to get information from. So we want to look at the audio player's current time, and we also want to look at the audio player's duration. And these we want to actually add to our information div. So the information div's inner HTML will be equal to something like the current time, and then we have a dash in between, and then we print the duration. Just remove that. So let's see how that looks. So now we'll get a lot of numbers there. And let's see here. The audio player info. We have the audio player. Let's display flex on that one too, and let's say that this element should flex a direction row. Perhaps that will keep them in line. That's pretty much it. So now we will get the information here, but as we see, we need to format this information a little bit better. We need to actually just take the seconds, because we are not that interested in the rest. So let's do it the very easy way. Let's just say that we want to take this current time. Let's create a function for that as well. Function display time. This function will take seconds with these extra information, because we have a lot of decimal points for the seconds. And the first we do here is take the seconds and get how many minutes we have. Minutes, and that's seconds divided by 60. Then we will need to take the seconds and actually remove all the minutes that we actually got, because this we also need to have an integer of. So we want to have the exact seconds, the exact minutes, and then we take these minutes and do times 60. So seconds should be equal to second minus minutes. And last but not least, I think we should do some printout here. So do we have any good pretty print for this? Let's just try something easy. Return minutes plus that sign plus seconds. Could be good enough. And we need to use it as well, so display time, put it around these values here, and display time. Indent those a bit so we see where they belong. That didn't do anything. Okay, so we actually use parse int to get an int value of the seconds and the minutes. You learn So now we will see the seconds in our little printout there. Not the most useful, but it's okay. We can do display flex on that too. And let's put some alignment to that as well. So it will be in the middle. And I also think that this little update time should actually be in every play track. So we start play track with update time, and we also need to have it when we have loaded the audio player. So we will update time here as well. So no. So we actually got some information there. We can't actually show the current time or right off the bat because it's actually not loaded. So we need to wait until the metadata is loaded. So if we have an event lister for when the metadata is loaded and then print out this, we will get the actual seconds and minutes printed. So that's that. Let's now add a few more divs. We need 2 more divs, and we need a progress bar, and we need a progress meter. Both are divs. So the progress bar is audio player. Let's call it audio player progress bar and audio player progress meter. And then we need to append the meter to the progress bar. And let's take the progress bar and create, let's say, a progress bar here which has the size of 400 with a height of 30. And now when we are trying to implement this progress bar, I think it's time to actually hide the audio player. So we can remove the controls and we can remove the audio player from what we actually are adding. So here we need the progress bar. So we will put that after the information. And we also need some more information about the progress bar and the progress meter. And I think we should use some color here. So the background of the progress bar should be background color, let's say purple. And the background bar of the progress meter could be hot pink, perhaps. That should look nice. And so we append that. So if we load it here, we see that that progress bar is too long. Let's go to 300. That's fine. So now we have a little progress bar and a little progress meter. And if we put the progress meter with it needs a height. Let's say that it has a width of 50 pixels. Yeah, so that works. So now when the time is updated, we need a current percent of the actual audio played. So we will put some information in here. Let's say update time. We will look at the difference between these. Current audio time. No, the duration. divided by the current audio time. That's the percent of played time. And then we need to take the, we need actually to have these progress bar and progress meter defined up here, or progress bar, progress meter. And if we have those defined, we can actually say that I think we should also, when we create this progress meter, we should have a progress bar width, so we know how large the progress bar is. So progress bar width, let's go down here to the progress bar. So when we have created that, we will put progress width to progress bar offset width. And I think that we might require to actually add it to the HTML in order to get an offset width. So we do that down there. And then up here we need to set the progress meter equal progress meter style width is equal to percent times, and I think we need a parenthesis also so we can add some information after, because we need to add pixels to that. So let's see, that didn't work that well. So that should be correct. Let's see, duration times current time. No, we have turned it around. Turn around everybody, then I feel a little bit lonely. So that should be more correct. Yeah, we can have a little progress bar whenever we play something. That's nice. That's really nice. So we have done well, but we need also to seek, right? So if we actually click on the progress bar, we want to jump. So let's take the progress bar, add an event listener, and it should be on click. And if we click it, we should do some seeking. And let's see when we updated this. So seeking up here, we haven't used that yet. So the seeking, then we need to actually take some of the information we had up here and apply down here. And the seeking should get an event, and in the event we have something called offset x, and that's actually how far off we click into this element. So we take this offset x and divide it by the progress bar width, then we will get the percent where we actually clicked. And if we're seeking, we will just put the current time to the percent times the audio player duration. So that should be the seek function. So if we play here, we can jump around, we'll start play at the different places in the list. And we can also jump to the next track.
Good for
do
example.
some seeking there. And yeah, now I think we have done pretty much all the different functionality I was intending to implement in this session. If you like, you can do some more fine stuff to create a better looking display here. You should actually have an extra left pad for this to add the 0 on the side there if you like. You can also handle hours if you like to do that as well. But in my case, I have very short audio clips, so I don't need to actually handle the case of hours. And I also haven't styled the buttons. So the buttons you could style a bit more if you like. You can also go into changing the play button to the pause button when you actually are playing and so on. So you can do some improvement on this player, but I think that all those enhancements are quite easily done. And I think that this player is also very easy to do. I didn't spend that much time to actually implement this function here, or this little player. And I take the standard player and make it a little bit more styled and could actually have exactly the look that you want in your application. So I hope that you learned something today and that you thought that this was a fun little exercise. And please, if you have any questions about how you can work with your audio elements and so on, or make them more area friendly, in my case I could actually add also a seek with keyboard. So if you press the left key, you jump back 5 seconds, and if you press the right key, you jump forward 5 seconds. That's something that we implemented in our player. That's very good for those who use the keyboard when they are navigating your website. So that's always good to think about, because there are people that actually can't at the moment use a mouse. Perhaps they don't have a mouse. Everyone doesn't have a mouse, and some people can't actually see where they should click, so or could have problems operating a mouse because they have tremors and so on. So to make a really accessible site, you should really think about all those edge cases, and the area guidelines are very good if you want to look into that. So I hope you learned something today. I hope you hit me up in the comments, and I really hope to see you in the next one.